All right, welcome everybody to Barbershop Talks presented by the Democratic Party of Illinois. My name is Jeray Hines. I am the field director for the Democratic Party of Illinois. We're so happy that you could be here. The reason that we're here is because it is critically important to engage Black voters and the Black community ahead of the 2024 election. We've all heard how Black folks are feeling about this upcoming election, how they feel how Democrats have performed for them or not performed for them in previous elections. And we want to try and clearly have an honest discussion right here in the barbershop, which is a space that the Black community has been community for decades and decades to share in joy, crime, all the above. The issues that are impacted with the Black community. So we'll go ahead and get started. We are right here in the beautiful Metro East part of Illinois at Top Style Barbershop. I want to give a special thank you to the owner, Derek Hendricks. He has been a staple in the community for over 21 years right here in the Metro East. Now I'll introduce our panelists today. We have LaToya Greenwood. LaToya Greenwood was born and raised right here in East St. Louis. She has been an advocate and focused on social justice, equity, and opportunity, but more specifically, she has been focused on job creation, economic growth, education funding, increasing the minimum wage for folks, reproductive health, maternal and infant mortality rates, and creating additional access to health care. So thanks so much, LaToya, for being here. She's currently a candidate for the 114th District in the House.
Thank you.
Next, we have Senator Christopher Belt, also right here from the Metro East, more specifically Centerville. He's the current state senator for District 57. He sits on the Appropriations Committee for Transportation and Public Safety. Thank you so much, Senator Belt, for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And last but certainly not least, we have Reverend Dr. W.J. Griffin, who is pastor of Greater Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church over in Lebanon, Illinois. He has been here for decades as a staple of the community as well. He's run many drives focused on clothing, food, and toy drives for folks in the community. And thank you so much for being here. Been a civil community for over 40 years. Thank you so much, Pastor. So let's get into it. We got some questions for y'all. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves, and we'll have a good time today. First question. Since the 2020 election, we have seen a decrease in Black voter turnout, and polling shows that Black voters are increasingly open to voting for Republicans. In your opinion, what has led to Black voters shifting support and participation in elections? In South East.
I think that we, as a Democratic Party, must first start to think about our messaging and talk about the things that we have been able to deliver to not just Illinoisans. We're here in the state of Illinois, but throughout the country. All the wins, all of the fights and increase the minimum wage, how we have battled for Black maternal health, how we have made the access to the ballot very accessible right here in the state of Illinois. All of these things, when we start to talk about Rebuild Illinois, when we start to talk about the right to work amendment that we supported, all of these things we need to be able to do clear and targeted messaging so that people know what Democrats are doing in Illinois.
Pastor Griffin, what have you been hearing from your congregation about why folks might be not excited about this upcoming election?
The top runners in the Republican Party has cast a great shadow on this election, and people out in the community of Lebanon and surrounding communities are somewhat afraid that it's going to be another travesty in terms of the election. But what the Democratic Party is doing in the community is not widely spread, like I think it should be. Democrats are doing a great job in terms of working in the communities and doing other community activities as well as statewide. I think if we just get the word out a little better, I think it'll be more successful in this election. But we do have to get the word out, and we do have to do some community motivation in order to get the people to understand the importance of this movement.
Senator
I agree with what LaToya Greenwood stated. I agree with Pastor. It really comes down to messaging, right? We're doing the work, but the Republicans tend to message better than us. Their message don't change. It's been that way since prior to Nixon, right? Their message is always their message, and our 10 is huge. But we're doing the work. I think LaToya expressed or laid out a really good, gave a really good synopsis of what we've been doing on the state level. All those things. We led the charge for minimum wage increase to $15. This was before COVID, right? And all we heard was if we do that, it'll be the end of business in Illinois, right? Now, after COVID, you can get $15 almost anywhere, right? So that wasn't true. And so we really have to be cognizant of what we do. We have to message better, and it has to be an ongoing thing, right? We can't message and we can't put out the things that we're doing only when it's time for an election. We have to court our black voters, right? And that's one of the reasons you see black voters, particularly black men, slowly leaving the party. We have to continue to talk to them. We have to continue to message them, and them, I mean African Americans in general, in totality, beyond midterms, beyond federal elections. We have to make that a part of our very fabric, because again, we're doing the work.
Yeah. And I want to add that we have to show as a party how legislation or initiatives are actually impacting their life. How did it touch me personally? Legislation that you passed. How did Rebuild Illinois touch me personally with job creation and infrastructure repairs? How does combating maternal mortality affect me personally with improved access to health care? So we have to explain it out. How is it impacting you specifically in your family?
That's right. Pastor Griffin, I'll direct this question to you. We talked a lot about messaging and things and making sure we're speaking to the issues. What do you think are some of the issues that folks are, upset about or wish that there was more action around?
I think that a lot of people are feeling that there should be a more, what the Democratic Party is doing should be highly publicized. Right now, we don't hear a lot from the Democratic Party. Senator Bell just touched on that issue. But at the same time, one of the issues is that they don't know what's going on for them, what's happening on their behalf in the black communities. I live in an area where most of the people are military. But I pastor in Lebanon, and most of my members are either retired or either active duty military. And they are not aware. So we're going to have to go to work and make sure that the people in these churches are informed. And the only way to do that is to have the individuals that are running for office to show up and not necessarily make a political speech, but just show up and show that they are interested in what's going on. Right now, the cry that I hear living, the only time the politicians come is when they are getting ready to run. And my message is that if you don't show up when we need you, don't show up.
Yeah, I've organized all across this country in Black communities all across this country, and there's a similar thing that I hear: you show up every 4 years, ask my vote, and then don't do anything.
I don't know anything.
That's not the case. We've been doing stuff for folks,
Yeah.
right? Senator Bell, you mentioned Black men sort of leaving the party. A lot of that tends to be economic issues. Are there any other issues, or could you dive in more about what specific economic issues Black men are upset about?
Well, it comes down to, for Black men, it's really about economic empowerment, right? It's about getting a slice of the pie. And, you know, again, we talk about messaging. There's a whole plethora of bills that we passed to empower African Americans, persons with disabilities, Latinos, women. But if you don't know about it, right, your perception then becomes your reality. It's not that we're not doing anything, but again, you have to be deliberate. You got to be intentional, right? And so, to the pastor's point, when this federal election is over, right, show up anyway. You don't have to get to the lectern and be a part of the pulpit to speak. Just show up, right? And those are the things that we have to do. We have to let African American men know that in the state of Illinois, we raised BEP from 20% to 30%. Those are aspirations. That's the Business Enterprise Program.
Here we go.
Right? And so it's aspirational, right? But it's strongly encouraged. My predecessor raised it to 20%. I raised it from 20 to 30%. But understand that 30% is the floor. It can go higher, but at the very least, you need 30%. Now, here's the issue. We can find a 7-foot African in a remote village in Africa and bring him over to play football or basketball. We can find a soccer player in Central America, but we can't find qualified Blacks to fill positions. Intentionality, right? That's what we're talking about. And we have to be really a part of moving that dial and stop looking for loopholes to circumvent legislation and have fidelity and integrity and be truthful when we move these things forward.
And when we talk about Black men in our state, Black men have some of the highest unemployment rates in our state. And so when we talk about being intentional, we need to talk about programming, investments, and creating opportunity and access. So when we hear them wanting to hear more about the Republican Party, it's a reason for that. So we need to, again, be direct in our messaging and investment and let them know, too, that we're here to help. We have programming, and myself and Senator Bell, we always talk about being an elected official is all about information and resources, bringing it back to your constituents. And so I think we've done a great job at that, but people have to want to receive it as well. But that's one of the reasons we have such a high unemployment rate in our state.
And also, too, there's this myth, again, perception is your reality, that the Republican Party is about this rugged individualism where you pull yourself up by your bootstrap. What happens if you don't have a boot? Right? And so this whole idea you can get from here and you can just tell, no, you can't. And so there has to be a reconciliation with the Democratic Party to the African American community. Women, the African American women, they're the bedrock of the Democratic Party. They voted a 96 to 98% clip. No other group does that, right? And so we have to show them policy-wise. If you look on the national level, President Biden has done a really good job. You wouldn't know that, though, if you listen to the talking heads. And, you know, he ran with Kamala Harris, first woman of color, VP. He put Ketanji Brown into the Supreme Court. He put Lisa Cook in as the Federal Reserve, right? Those ARPA dollars, those American Plan Rescue dollars, they came to underserved communities and made a difference. Nobody knows that though. And so you have to start having that dialogue. The assumption is they know. The assumption is, oh, they'll find out. We can't leave that up to chance. You have to tell them what you've done. LaToya and I struggle with that because all your life you're told, don't boast or don't tell people what you've done. Let them do it. Let them find out. Right? It's almost like it's bragging. But in this area, you need to tell them what you've done. When you go knocking on people's door in campus, first thing they're going to say is, what have you done? Right? And so we have got to get comfortable of telling people I've done this or I've done that or we've done that. You got to get the messaging across.
Freaky. Now, we talked a lot about policy because we got two lawmakers here, Frank. So what are some of the policies that you are excited about, future policies that you're maybe trying to pass or policies that have been passed in the past that were really exciting to you that will impact the Black community?
Well, today we held a college fair earlier today in East St. Louis at the high school. And one of the pieces of legislation that I'm proud that I sponsored had to do with the ACT-SAT elimination or test option. And so what we found was that a lot of the colleges that were participating today are test optional, or they don't even require the ACT-SAT any longer, but they do require that you do some other thing, whether it's an essay or whatever the first process that they've implemented. So I'm very proud about that piece of legislation. I'm proud of an initiative about guaranteed income. We have a pilot here in St. Clair County that helps with mothers that are at or below the poverty line. I'm very proud about that initiative. And then I'm proud about the trauma wraparound center that we have in East St. Louis School District 189 that I was able to bring here. It was a pilot in Peoria, and we started one here in our local school district as well. And just about all the pieces of legislation, I'm talking about Rebuild Illinois because it encompasses so much. And because the Metro East area got so many dollars from that in job creation, improvement in our infrastructure, improvement in our rail system, our ports. So there's a lot of work that has been done. I'm proud to have been a part of it, and I look forward to being a part of making some changes in the 114th district to come.
Yeah. In terms of legislation, I'm proud of legislation that I sponsored in the Senate, LaToya carried in the House, where in all your state parks in Illinois, you have to fly 3 flags in your state parks. You have to fly the Illinois state flag, you have to fly the American state flag, and you have to fly the POW MIA flags. The very first one is Frank Holden State Park, which is in Cahokia Heights. That's the very first park. You'll see all 3 of those flags being flown. I sponsored a bill, and I think LaToya carried that bill in the House, where you don't normally, school districts discard the food that they don't use anymore. Now, because of this bill, we're able to send that food home to students, whether during the week or on the weekend. Because at the end of the day, I can't do homework when I'm hungry, right?
No, that's right.
I can't do homework when I'm hungry. And what we've known all along, one of the things about the Metro East that's so unique to the Metro East is if you Google the top 10 poorest cities in Illinois, 3 of them will show up right in the 57th district. You got East St. Louis, right now is the poorest city in all of Illinois. You have the old Centerville, which is a part of Cahokia Heights now, which is the newest city in Illinois. But in 2018, Centerville was the poorest city in all of America. and I'm from Centerville. And then you have Brooklyn, Illinois, which is the oldest African American chartered municipality in America, right? You have 3 of the poorest top 10 right in one Senate district, right? And so we know then that these kids, you're telling them to do homework, but it ain't no food at home, right? One of the things that we found in COVID, which we already knew, is if kids aren't going to school, they don't eat breakfast. They don't eat lunch, right? When colleges closed down, people were homeless because they were put out of dorms and had nowhere to go, right? And so let's really focus. Why are we throwing food away when we can wrap it up and send it home? And so that's something we passed. LaToya and I passed license portability. We got Scott Air Force Base right in our backyard. And so when these people get deployed, when these service men and women get deployed to Scotts, if they were a teacher in Iowa, then they come to Illinois, they have to wait to get certified. What the License Portability Act does is speeds, it expedites that whole process. So you don't have to wait as long, right? And so we've done a yeoman's job of working for all of our residents in the Metro East. We're tackling now a sewer and water issue in Coconut Heights, where at some point in time, raw sewage was just popping up in people's yards, right? Potable drinking water in 2024, right? And so we brought money, we brought state dollars to those issues. We were at a ribbon cutting yesterday in Venice, Illinois, for a brand new $26 million school. Yeah. That the monies from those to build that school, which their previous school was deemed what do you call it? Inhabitable, right? So they needed a new school. ISB deemed it inhabitable, so we were able to get $26 million for a new school, but it was because of the Rebuild Illinois program that we voted for, that everyone didn't vote for. Understand the importance of the people you send to Springfield or to Washington. Elections have consequences, right? Who you send matters.
And that's right. I'd like to see one thing. I taught school in St. Louis for 17 years. I'd like to see the educational structure strengthened in Illinois because we have a lot of dropouts right now. They're educatable, but they are not, for some reason they're dropping out. I think some kind of effort should be focused on these individuals. Women with a low income should be focused upon. And I think the Democratic Party is doing that, but it's not highly publicized. Yeah. If we can reach these young people that are unemployed, and there's a great number. Right now, you can just about get a job anyway, making $15 an hour, as Senator Bill said. But they're looking for something better. But you have to be educated in order to qualify to get these jobs. So I think that's one of the areas that Democratic Party can focus in on. And if they do that, they'll get a piece of the pie. Mm. They'll be able to get a piece of the pie. And they'll be able to move up in the corporate America as opposed to just hanging out on the street. When there is a downturn in income, there is a high level of crime. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I think that some of the men are leaving the Democratic Party is because they feel like they can make some progress. They can be the black individual that can get a piece of the pie on the Democratic side. And that's a mirage that's put out there in front of the black community. But Democrats has done a great job in terms of reaching out, but there are some areas that I think we can reach out into. And one of the areas, as I say again, is showing up, being highly visible. Let it be known what you have accomplished and what you are accomplishing, what you what you want to work on and reaching out and seeing where the problems are in the Black community. There are a number of there's a plethora of greater problems in the Black community that we need to address, and many of them are being addressed, but nobody know about it. So we have to reach out and make that public effort, that put forth a greater interest in making sure what the Democratic Party is doing is affecting the communities, affecting the women that's below income with children, and they don't know how to access the programs that's available to them. We have to make that known, and it's going to take a concerted effort on the part of a great part of the Democratic Party.
Now, we know there's a lot of resources out there, you've all eloquently have said. Where can folks go to find out where those resources are for them so they can take part in some of the great legislation that is passed in the state?
Well, they can reach out to me, contact my office, or go to my webpage, LaToyaGreenwood.com, and from there they can email. But we can absolutely direct you to plenty of resources and information. If you have questions about anything, we'll be able to do that.
And for me, on social media, you could go to Christopher Bell for State Senate, and you can go to State Senator Christopher Bell.
Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about policies that Democrats have been passing. Now, on the flip side, this might be a fun question. What have Republicans been passing or trying to pass that is the biggest threat to the Black community in your opinion? Or just, kind of crazy?
Well, the number one thing that's crazy is when you don't vote for a budget.
Mm-hmm.
So we all know how important a budget is. Just if you think about it in terms of your own household, how you manage your own life, it shows your priorities. And so when you don't vote for a budget, what are your priorities to your constituents? It tells me you don't have it. All of the programming, initiatives, the implementation that comes along with a budget, and you vote no, you're not putting your constituents above, I don't know if it's your personal, or I don't know what makes you not vote for a budget. So I can't tell you that. But that to me is one of the things that I think is bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
No, I would agree as well, not on the state level, and even on the federal level, you have to vote for a budget, right? We're sent to represent our districts, right? And Illinois in general. But I'm responsible to my constituents in the 57th district. And so these budgets aren't hastily done, right? When we go back next week on the state level, the governor will do his state of the budget address, right? And from that moment to the end of session, we're fighting over this budget, right? We're looking at the budget. We're dissecting the budget. It goes from his address all the way to when we adjourn, right? And so if you're not voting for the budget, even for a place like the 57th and the 114th, I spoke about monies that were brought to Cahokia Heights. Well, those dollars are reallocated in the budget. And so if you vote no on the budget, you vote no to potable water. You vote no to sewer issues, to remediate those sewer issues. When you vote no on the budget, you voted no to Smart Start, the $250 million initiative for universal preschool. Mm-hmm. You vote no on the $350 million that we put for evidence-based funding for schools, farthest away from adequacy, right? Mm-hmm. When you vote no on the budget, you vote no on it all, from IDOT to Department of Human Services. You vote DCFS. You vote no on everything. Mm-hmm. And so if you do that, how then do you come back and say to your constituents that you're serving them, right? On the other thing that the Republicans are trying to do, which is crazy, is to erase African Americans from history, right? That's national. How do you do that? How do you redefine what slavery was? It was okay. You know, you got to eat and you got work and you got a place over your head. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Right? How do you ban African Americans and all the things that we've given and that were taken, that were things that were compelled for us to do in this country? How do you erase that? How do you tell people that they take that all out of the history books? How do you, when you want to tell the accurate story, you know, about slavery, and then it's ugly and it's too blatant and in your face? Well, it was slavery. We're not trying to sugarcoat it. And I think we could learn from other countries on how to deal with our past. America's original sin. We got to deal with it. And if we stumble, and if we keep stumbling, then we're going to have this problem 10 years down the road. We cannot continue to kick this can down the road. It happened. Tell it like it was. We ain't erasing nothing. And let's move forward.
And we know this presidential election happening this year. It's very important. We have to re-elect Joe Biden. We have to defeat Donald Trump or whatever Republican they put up. But also critically important down ballot races, right? I believe they have the most direct impact on voters' daily experience. Right, to talk about, you know, folks trash get picked up, right? So which offices do you believe voters should really be paying attention to this election cycle?
Well, of course, I'm going to say they should be paying attention to the 114th state rep election. It's going to be we're going to need all the support we can get to be victorious in November. And but other than that, I mean, we have our Congresswoman. She's on the ballot. And just when we talk about all politics is local. And so if you have any local races going on, you should definitely be casting your vote in the primary on March 19th, Tuesday, March 19th. All elections are important. And I think we have to really start to get that in our head and in our spirit that we must be voting in all elections, because things are happening in the library boards, like Senator Bell said, with Manning Books, and just all the school boards. All of these things are happening and they are impacting everyday lives. So all elections are important.
Yeah, I would echo this sentiment as well and just say, you know, vote the whole ballot, right? You got to turn it over, but keep voting, right? And it's going to start off with federal, go down state, go to county, and down ballot simply means down the ballot. And the farther you go down the ballot, the closer it is to home. Yeah. And so it's important, but all of it's important. And so be sure when you do vote, when that time comes, that you start at the top, you turn it over, and that you fill it all the way up, right? Because it all matters.
I think the governor, just last Thursday, we were there in Springfield with the governor, and he met with a group of pastors from the Illinois state. And one of the things that he emphasized is that pastors has a great influence on the community at large. And their responsibility is to get out and to motivate and to encourage individuals in that community, that they and their constituent, their congregation, to get out and spread the word. The problem is that a lot of communication has been lost, and not only in the churches, but in the community as a whole. But I feel that if we can get out and just make it be known what's going on, or what the potentials are for that individual, 10 individuals not voting, there's 10 minuses on the Democratic Party.
Right.
we need everybody to get out and do that, get that information out.
So where it says,
I think to expand on what the good pastor just stated is whether your congregation is 5 or 5,000, when they speak, it becomes priority, right? It's so few people have, I don't know, a pulpit to speak from that people willingly walk into, right? And whatever they say is magnified. And so it becomes power. Then you speak truth to power, right? And so that I think it should be incorporated in all churches, particularly churches in underserved communities. When election times are coming around, if you got to vote, your voice, you got to exercise your right to the ballot. People died for their right, right? Women only got that right is 1922. So you've only had it 102 years, you know? And so you got to really, again, be intentional. And in that 18 to 30-year-old range, you got to go get them.
They're unheard of.
They're unheard of. They're unheard of. And you got to tell them why, right? Because they protested in the streets for George Floyd. Right? And if they're not seeing anything come of it, but empty promises, you're losing them, right? And again, you got to sit down and talk to them. That demographic is a powerful demographic that we're not even touching. I run across them every day. We spoke to some youth, LaToya and I, not long ago, and it was like between that age range, and they're like, why should I vote? I'm not voting, right? And again, I always use this example, but if we order a pizza and 3 of us say what we want on the pizza, and 1 of us don't out of the 4 of us, and the pizza is delivered, the one who didn't say what he wanted or what she wanted, you have no right to say anything.
That's it.
It is your right not to say what you want, right? You have that right not to say what you want.
That's it.
But you don't say nothing when the pizza arrives. Just be quiet, because you have no voice. You forfeited,
Yes.
right? And so we gotta tell people, say what you want on the pizza.
What are we doing? What are we doing to bring them on board? And it has to be specific. They don't want to hear about something that's not dealing directly with them. They want to know, how is this going to benefit me?
Right,
That's what our younger people want to know.
right.
When I talk to my son, he's like, okay, what does that do for me? He's 21. Mom, what is that? And how does it impact me? So we have to be very specific on our message. Yeah.
One of the things that impressed me last Thursday in Springfield, it was together, is I saw all of these young people with important positions. They planned this, they mapped out his route, where he was going, rather. They were all around. And I said, now, why can't we have that kind of impact on the young people in this community? We have to open up the door and give them an opportunity.
Yes.
We have to prep them for the job
Yes.
and give them an opportunity to show what they can do. And I think one of the things that would enhance the participation in the young community is for them to be directly held responsible for some of these political jobs. And that would give them an opportunity, would inspire other young people to aspire to be in that same position.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we have to have, we have to be policy driven for them. We got to talk in terms of tuition, debt relief. We have to talk about jobs, right? The jobs for them. We have to provide mentorship for them. We have to talk about violence prevention for them and for the community as a whole, right? What does that look like? And those are the type of conversations we have to have, and then we have to have them to lead it. You know, I was talking to a kid the other day, he referred to me as the OG. So I done made OG stack. So he's not necessarily, you got to get somebody from his age range or her age range to tell the story, to tell the narrative, right? You're more prone to listen to somebody in your age category than an OG. You know what I mean? So that's what it is.
That's great. All right, that concludes most of my questions, but I do want to open it up for folks. If you have any final thoughts or words, any advice you want to give to voters or things the Democratic Party should be doing, in your opinion, and now is the time we can go down the line and ask final word.
I just want to stress the importance of the ballot. And we have important race. It's a primary race Tuesday, March 19th, that is going to carry us to our general in November. We are a state that's hosting the Democratic National Convention, which should be very exciting for Democrats all across Illinois to get involved in. They're looking for volunteers. They're looking for people to say, hey, how can I get in touch with that or find out more about what's going on with the Democratic Party.
To add that if we have registering agents in our church that seek individuals to register, to make sure that they are there, and we provide some transportation. And I would encourage other churches in the community, especially in the Black community, to follow suit and help your individuals. Reach out and put a concerted effort in terms of reaching the individuals in the community to get them to the poll, to get them registered, to make sure that they're qualified. Because you do know that there is an effort. There is an effort to restrict the vote on a national level. And so we need to make sure that we put up we shedded a lot of blood, to make sure that we could vote. Now let's utilize that voting rights that we have. It's important that we want it, we need it. If you don't vote, you don't have anything to say.
Sure.
Absolutely. I would just say again, be deliberate, be intentional, vote, GOTV, get out the vote. We can do that year round. We don't have to wait to election cycles to do that. We know that that's important. We know that that's, we're going to need people to be registered. So why do we wait and then rush to try to do it? Mm-hmm. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, hoping for a different outcome. We know what the outcome is going to be. Under voting in underserved communities. And so the right to the ballot, you got to vote. Mm-hmm. We have to get that message in. We got to hammer that message. You have to vote, right? I know it's a personal choice, but when you forfeit your right to vote, you forfeit your voice. And a lot of underserved communities are in the shape that they're in because people have just gave up their rights to vote. You know, you look at the census we just had in 2020. It's very undercounted in underserved, historically undercounted in underserved communities, particularly 2020 because we were dealing with COVID, right? And we know that there's a tie-in to the number of people in the city and federal dollars, right? So being undercounted means you don't get as much as if you were given a true number. And so to anyone who looks at this or reviews this, come out to vote. And not just you. Grab your friends, grab your family. It's great, it's good if you do it. It's better if you get people to go along with you. Right? That's the key. Make it a game, make it a fun thing, make it a buddy system. Go get people to the polls and vote. Studies show if you do it 3 times, you're more likely to continue to do it. So just give me 3 times.
Give me 3 times. It's a perfect way to do it. I want to say a thank you to the owner of the shop, Derek.
Yes,
Hendricks.
thank
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Special thank you to Senator Christopher Belt, Pastor Griffin here, and LaToya Greenwood. Thank you so much. Our first barbershop talk, and we'll be back with another one. Thank you so much.